Hello everyone, I hope you've had a great day so far and that you're doing well. For this video we'll be going through an unboxing and review of the Studio Series Core Class Wheelie, and this particular version of Wheelie is from the Transformers the movie, well, the 1986 version. And this particular Core Class figure of Wheelie was released by Takara Tomy and Hasbro, and was released this year being 2022. So I was actually hoping to do a different Core Class unboxing and review. However, I hadn't done some of the initial prep work, so I thought, I'm going to do Wheelie, and I'm actually going to try and keep this quote-unquote short, because I've noticed all my unboxings are getting longer and longer. But anyway, with that aside, so here we have the front of the box for Wheelie, and it doesn't look that bad. So at the very top of the little peg box we do have artwork of Wheelie holding his little something, I can't remember the name of that thing. Yes, that's pretty much straight out of the movie. Otherwise we have Wheelie in his plastic-less window. Color-wise, he looks like he's going to be pretty accurate, and he is sporting a pretty happy-looking face, so that's actually not too bad for the front of the box. Side of the box, we do have another shot of Wheelie, as well as the standard Studio Series and Core Class labeling, and then we have a bit more of a full-body shot of Wheelie himself. So that's not too bad. That's the front and the side. In terms of the back, a shot of Wheelie in both his robot mode and his vehicle mode. 12 steps to convert him between the two. Be interesting to see how he actually looks once I take him out of the box. I know sometimes with these particular images, just the way that they angle them isn't the most flattering, but we'll see. We'll see. Compared to the original Generation 1 Wheelie, this one's obviously leaps and bounds better, but I don't know, I've seen a few different Wheelies over the years, and the Studio Series Wheelie may not be my favourite, but I guess we'll find out in time. Now that we've had a quick look of the box, I will open up the box, get Wheelie out, and then we can have a look at Wheelie and his included accessories, manuals, and everything that's usually included. And with Wheelie now out of his box, so we have Wheelie, as to be expected, and at the moment he's actually not looking too bad at all in his robot mode. Granted, there's been no real posing, but yeah, so far not too bad. We do have his one little slingshot accessory, very nice. Be very careful with this. It's not in any paper or wired down. It's, conveniently nuzzled into a part of the background. In fact, it's actually nuzzled into this bit, so just be careful when you open it that you don't accidentally throw this away without taking that out. Since I'm holding it, we have the very informal ad hoc background from the box. Based on the background, I want to say it's Quintessa, but I don't know. It does feel more like Cybertron than Quintessa. At least I'm pretty sure it's Quintessa. And lastly, we have the instructions. So, ever so quickly, just looking at Wheelie in front of his ad hoc makeshift background. Not too bad. I do like how these little core classes come with an ad hoc background. Yeah, I feel it's more like Cybertron than anything else, with more of the purple colours. But it does look very cool. Very nice. I will do some pictures with this background, post them up to Instagram when the time comes. So that was that. So that's the background out of the way. So now what I will do is move Wheelie to one side and his slingshot. Here we have his manual, next to the front of it. So Wheelie holding his little slingshot. Obviously the usual disclaimer piece of paper that we try not to worry too much about. In terms of the starting of his instructions, so it has the step on how to insert a slingshot into his hand. Otherwise, transformation wise, pretty much start with his upper body and do some usual flipping around, etc. Then down to his legs. Spend some time on his legs, flipping things around, and yeah, and basically it looks like his arms will do a bit of a fold back and connect into his main body. And lastly, he will be able to store his slingshot in his vehicle mode. I actually quite like that, and it's definitely one time where the weapon storage works out really well and doesn't seem too awkward on the vehicle. So that was a look at his manual, which was actually pretty short. So that is the 12-step conversion. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes when the time comes. Before we get too carried away with Wheelie, so his little slingshot accessory in grey. It's actually not too bad. Got a bit of detailing on it. And in terms of equipping it, just happily tabs into his hand like so. And there we go. Wheelie equipped with his slingshot. Not too bad. Obviously, start looking at Wheelie in a moment. But yes, there you go. Wheelie with his slingshot. So, with his one accessory now out of the way, and we will have a quick look at that once he's transformed to see how well it stores. So, here we have Wheelie. So that's a shot of Wheelie from the front. Actually no, his instruction manual's okay. Wasn't sure if it was going to cause some issues with the camera. Front of Wheelie, side of Wheelie, back of Wheelie, other side of Wheelie, top down view, bottom up, and yeah, just a bit of a offside view. Before we get too into things, does he stand on his own 2 feet with no problems? The answer is yes. Yes, he does. Well, albeit we're looking down on Wheelie. So before I start looking at his own articulation, in terms of colours, I'd say they're fairly accurate. I feel there might be, well, there should be a bit more of this peachy colour, but overall, colour scheme's working quite nicely, so he's still predominantly a bit of a... Definitely feels like a type of orange, but I'm not sure what type. Blood orange? Has some of this grey detailing on his knees, bits on his feet and lower legs. His hands have been given a bit of a metallic coating. Obviously his chest and bits of his head are in that more of that skin color peach tone. Detailing on the head is quite nice. I guess if we look at the back, he will have grey wheels, and his vehicle canopy will be in a very dark blue. That's definitely not too bad. Colours wise, I'd say he's doing quite well on. Now in terms of articulation, what can Wheelie do? So in terms of his head can indeed do a full 360 with no problems. In terms of his arms, so they can go up and down like that, to the back, to the front, mainly because they are on a ball and socket, so they can go all the way around like so, even when his arm is out like this. You can still freely spin around like that as well, thanks to that ball socket. In terms of his elbow, now I'm assuming this is part of his transformation, so it does actually lock the lower arm into the upper arm. So there will be a tab that you can obviously press out, well, D-tab, and that will generate his elbow, which is actually also on a ball socket. So his arm will do a nice little full rotation on that socket, and obviously because it is that elbow, he's, you know, with the exception of the tab, I'd say he's probably got a good 90 degree motion there. And because it can move on the sockets, you can also move that arm around. You can even move it behind him if you wanted to. Be awkward, yes, but it can be done. So that is his arms. Now I'll just do that. In terms of the waist, there is no waist swivel, so that will all be locked into that one pose. In terms of his legs, can he do a full? He cannot do a full split. That's as far as he will go. Any further will probably pop the leg out from the thigh. In terms of the leg, can move all the way like that, be standing, and if you put it out to the side, it can kick all the way to the back as well. It can do a full 360 at that ball socket there in the waist area. Doesn't feel very smooth, at least not like the arms, but it can be done. In terms of his knee, so he will have up and down knee action, which is good. It is also on a ball and socket, so that knee can also go all the way around. And if you wanted to, you could probably have him do some very interesting upside down ninja poses. Goes to show how much articulation is present in that knee. So that's really cool. And as for his foot, well, his foot can go up and down. I suspect that's an artifact of his transformation. But yeah, if you wanted to do a bit of a toe bend, you can actually do it. In fact, you can probably pull off a matrix jumping pose if you really wanted to. Or some pose to that effect. So that's pretty cool. So that is a breakdown of the articulation of Wheelie in his robot mode. Overall, colors are looking pretty good. Articulation is actually quite respectable for a core class, and he actually has more articulation than I thought he would. Yeah, so excuse me. He also has a little weird butt flap, but I don't think that's really intentional with his robot mode. So what I'll do is I will transform him off camera, and then we can have a look at his vehicle mode, see what that's all about, and then I will do some final thoughts on core class Wheelie. And with Wheelie now in his alt mode, the transformation actually wasn't too bad. Pretty intuitive and actually worked quite nicely. There was nothing that really caught me out. So his head is quite happily in here, although unlike his original G1 toy, you can't really open it just because it's pretty much locked down in place. Things do tab quite nicely together, so there's some tabbing here, tabbing of the arms into this back, what used to be the butt flap, and yeah, transformation was quite good. I have put his little slingshot into his little storage compartment, so for the most part you can pretty much see it behind, but it doesn't look too bad from behind in his alt mode. So in terms of general articulation, his wheels do actually work, which is cool. But that's pretty much all you will expect and see in his vehicle mode. Yes, despite it looks like it can do it, this canopy will not open. Well, actually, I take that back. I was actually trying to open it too far down. So you can actually lift the very top, but you will basically expose his head. Can he? Not really. But there you go. So that's pretty much the bits of movement in his vehicle mode. Wheels and that little section up there. In terms of his vehicle look, so that's pretty much looking top down, from the front, side, back, other side, and the bottom. Definitely not too bad. The bottom is quite neat looking. As I mentioned earlier, everything tabs quite nicely. Colors, well, we've already talked about the colors, but in terms of his vehicle modes, they're definitely not too bad. They do work quite nicely. So you've got a little bit of the splashing of the grey on the front, the blue and the peach color, and then that orange elsewhere, also broken up by the grey on his wheels. I think the unfortunate thing about his vehicle mode is his hands are very noticeable. They don't really tuck in. He is a core class. It's probably not too unsurprising. So obviously bear that in mind, that from behind you will literally have these two silver fists just randomly poking out, chilling out, and being quite distinguishable. But other than that, his vehicle mode is pretty solid, and I do quite like how you can at least put the accessory in the back section of his vehicle mode, and if you take it out, it's pretty much what it looks like without it in there. For something that small though, it's probably not a bad idea to put it in there. In fact, just for giggles, what does he look like? If you were to use one of those hands, it does look pretty weird. It looks like it's trying to have one of those old school antennas that used to be on cars, but there you go. Is there anything else to say about his vehicle mode? Not really. Already talked about his transformation, which was really good. It was also fairly short as well, but once again, core class. Yeah, so not too bad. Before I talk about Wheelie in general, I think in terms of his alt mode, I think my only criticisms would be the hands do look a bit out of place, but that's okay. It's definitely not the worst thing. And I don't know, I feel his front could be a bit more longer and elongated, but I think that would be more aligned to some of his original G1 looks and things like that. Not to say this isn't G1, but I think it had a bit more of a, well, slightly longer and had a bit more of a curved front, where this seems to be a bit of a abrupt ending. Granted, that is his feet down there. But I will admit, I'm actually pleasantly surprised based on some of the images on the box. I wasn't feeling some of it, but I can safely say that it's actually been an enjoyable transformation, posing, well, not so much posing, but articulation and things like that. So there we go. That is Wheelie. So in terms of general thoughts, just using this as a reference, robot mode, it's pretty good. The knees didn't feel overly weak. So once again, I have no idea why knees are weird in certain core classes and not in others. So the knees felt fairly stable. The articulation is quite surprising. Thankfully, with all those ball sockets, you can actually get a good amount of movement in his arms and his legs, which is really cool. I thought that little tabbing of his arms to obviously keep them straight in his vehicle mode, and then to untab them to give them the fold would be weird, but it actually isn't that bad. So I'd say overall his robot mode is pretty good. In terms of his vehicle mode, as I mentioned earlier, I think to be really critical, unfortunate about the hands, but it's not that bad. if he was a deluxe, then I would imagine they would probably have had a step to at least fold these back into the main side of the car. I do feel like some of the front is missing, but that could just be me. But overall, his G1, well, his vehicle mode is a nice homage back to his G1 version. I wouldn't be surprised if someone makes an upgrade set that actually makes this a bit more pointy and elongated, possibly hides some of these hands, but we'll see. I probably wouldn't pick it up, but I'm sure someone's thinking about it right now. So overall, what do I think about Wheelie? Pleasantly surprised. So initial thought was, I don't think I'm going to really enjoy him too much, but having seen him in his robot mode, his vehicle mode, obviously looked at his articulation and things like that, I can safely say I'm pleasantly surprised. He's definitely one of those, if you just take one glance at him and then think you're going to not like him, I would probably say that's an unfortunate choice and a very hasty choice to make. I do actually look forward to getting through to the posing for the pictures and the video short as well for Wheelie. I think he's going to have some interesting opportunities there. Now that I've seen him in his both modes and all of that, I know Wheelie tends to be a very hit and miss character in general, but if you're a fan of the original 86 movie, I'd say he's a welcome addition to the 86 movie line of figures. If you're a Wheelie fan, by all means definitely grab him. I think he actually could hold a good spot up there compared to some previous Wheelie releases. I think Legends is one of them. I'm trying to remember if there was a third one. My memory's a bit hazy. As a Studio Series figure, he's quite solid. So if you're a fan of the Studio Series line, I would still recommend. He's actually a worthy pickup. If you're just a huge fan of the Autobots, he's still a worthy pickup. And if you're a general fan of Transformers, I would say he's actually a good addition to the collection. Yeah, as I said, I was very surprised, and I will admit I've not been a huge fan of Wheelie, but yeah, he's been a pleasant little core class figure to have a bit of a play with. So yes, I definitely look forward to seeing what posing I can do with him for the images and videos later down the track, well, at least after this unboxing and review video anyway. Looks like I managed to shave a minute or two off, but it's a start. So thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review of Core Class Wheelie. As I mentioned, there will be some upcoming picture sets of Wheelie, which will be on my Instagram, and by the time this particular video goes live, there will be the supplementary little short if you're just more interested in just having a look at Wheelie and not so much some of the wordiness about Wheelie. Haven't decided who will be the next unboxing and review for next week. I might go back to my original plan, or I may go through something else. Haven't decided. We'll see how things go. I do know that at some point in time I'm looking forward to having 500 subscribers, because I really would like to make use of the community tab and start giving the option of the community to help direct some of the future content, etc. And I'm sure I'll still have plenty of things to do by that stage, so definitely something that I'm working towards. Thank you very much for watching this video. Feel free to leave a like, a comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account, link below. Stay safe and take care, and I will catch you all in a future video. See ya.